comrades that you see in front here and other comrades that are sitting at the floor, and other comrades are joining us online, and the media houses are welcome to ask questions, but those questions will be asked after the reading of the statement by one of the representatives. And after reading the statement, the unions will confirm one by one as to the statement. After the confirmation of the statement, we'll appreciate if the media can ask questions in relation to the statement as read by the leadership in front of us. Let me give this opportunity to Comrade Vusi to lead us in so far as the statement is concerned, drafted by the 13 affiliates. Comrade Vusi, up to you.
No, thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson, and good morning, comrades, and good morning to media, especially to the media. Thank you very much, guys, for accepting our invitation on a very short space of time. Your presence in this briefing is appreciated. We, like already said by the chairperson, my name is Vusi Nchangase. I'm the General Secretary of DITAU. I will be reading the statement on behalf of all the unions that are opposed to what is currently happening in the Federation, Saftu. We are the leaders of the union affiliated to Saftu, and we are members of the National Executive Committee ourselves. We are representing the following Saftu affiliated unions: FAU, DITAU, NUPSO, SALIPSU, THORN, ICTU, KASAU, KWAU, BEMAUSA, APSA, DIPACO, VIU. We were inspired to learn that another Saftu affiliated union, SACOSU, has joined us and petitioned the leadership of the Federation in calling for the retraction of MEC's letter and hands off our General Secretary. And we know that most affiliates will still join us. We felt it necessary to take this unprecedented step to address our members through this media briefing in order to address a matter that has gained prominence in the public discourse. A group of factionalists inside our beloved Federation, Saftu, decided to leak to the media a misguided and ill-advised letter with the intent to suspend the General Secretary, Comrade Zwelinzima Vavi. Most of our members have seen this letter penned by the Saftu President, Mek Shavalal. The letter mischievously and maliciously sought to portray and smear the Saftu General Secretary as a possible corrupt and to face possible suspension to answer to a series of so-called misdemeanors, including trampling on the Saftu Constitution, undermining the decision of the constitutional structures, assuming the National Congress, the Central Committee, and the National Executive Committee. Saftu is made up of unions that have come together by 9 principles. Among these principles is that the Federation will be worker-controlled. Worker control, amongst others, in our understanding, means internal democracy as prescribed by Saftu Constitution. Each structure is given prescribed responsibility in what fondly called the Red Book of the Workers. In terms of this constitution, the Saftu Constitution, the power to suspend the national office bearer exclusively resides in the National Executive Committee, of which we are members of. Clause 3.3.5 of the Saftu Constitution is explicit in dealing with the suspension of an office bearer, and it states the following under the powers and duties of the National Executive Committee. that the National Executive Committee may suspend any office bearer or official of the Federation for sufficient cause until the matter is decided at the meeting of the Central Committee. Furthermore, Chapter 9 of the Saftu Constitution under Clause 1.21 states that the National Executive Committee may demand the recall of any national, provincial, or local office bearers, or who may serve on any outside body, if such is demanded by 2/3 of the affiliates. And Clause 1.2.1.1, if the member violates the Constitution of the Federation or in any way brings the Federation into disrepute. 1.2.1.2, if the Federation considers that the person is working against the best interest of the working class. Having taken the mentioned constitutional clauses into serious consideration, we could only arrive at one conclusion. And the conclusion is that we reject, in contempt it deserves, the attempt of some national office bearers of Saftu to usurp these powers of the National Executive Committee. The Saftu General Secretary cannot be suspended by his own colleagues. That power to take disciplinary action is a preserve and the sole prerogative of the National Executive Committee, of which we are members of. We place it on record that those affiliates who have directed the General Secretary to disregard the unconstitutional and unmandated letter of intent to place him on a precautionary suspension, and we have encouraged him to continue with his daily duties as if nothing has happened. And I can confirm that this morning I have had a telephone conversation with him, and I can confirm that he's energetically at work despite the deadline of yesterday, 4 o'clock. Our memories are still fresh in remembering that some of Saftu unions were victims of similar practices in COSATU, where the constitution of their unions were simply ignored when factions pursued their reactionary agendas. The launch of Saftu was a rejection of these practices that have led to the fragmentation of trade unions and the formation of splinter groups that weaken the voice of workers. We reject bureaucratization even when camouflaged as democratic centralism. We are opposed to corruption as a matter of principle, but we are also opposed to using that principle to advance factional agendas that are designed to collapse the unity of the workers in general, but that of Saftu in particular. As disciplined affiliates of Saftu, we shall decisively deal with unprecedented, unlawful, and unconstitutional conduct of the Saftu president and his team in the normal Saftu National Executive Committee meeting scheduled for next week from 24 March 2022 in Beechwood in Boksburg. We want to assure our members that Saftu is here to stay despite the efforts of rogue elements to derail our efforts to build an independent, strong, militant, radical, socialist-oriented, and worker-controlled Saftu. Our message is very clear that those who are behind the reactionary attempt to collapse Saftu in the interest of capital, in the interest of the state, or in the interest of any other interest must stop now, or else they will find us ready and they shall be exposed and defeated. If they work for someone who will hit the dog so hard that the owner will have no choice but to come out, and as he comes out, he or she shall be subjected to the same amount of beating. Hands off Saftu, hands off. Hands off. Hands off Vavi, hands off.
Hands off.
This is the statement presented, like we've said, on behalf of the mentioned affiliates. We must indicate that we are ready and willing to take questions from the floor, and we will collectively answer those questions. The chairperson, as indicated at the beginning, is going to invite leadership of affiliates present here today, and those that could not join us have confirmed to confirm that indeed they are part of the statement and they own up to it. We therefore present the statement, and the chairperson, I hand back over to you to facilitate the process going forward.
Thank you very much, Comrade Vusi, for a very clear reading of the statement that represents the unions here. I'm going to start from my left, Comrade, just for you to introduce yourself and the union that you're coming from, and as to your take on the statement that have been read. We'll have 1 minute, so that we allow ourselves, when questions come, we're able to respond to the questions, Comrade. I will start with the Comrade on my extreme left, then we come with the line like that until we are able to arrive at the end there with the Comrade at the extreme right.
My name is Isaac the Friend. I am from Chemical, Wood and Allied Workers Union, QUAW. I am the Acting General Secretary, and as QUAW, we confirm and support and are fully behind the statement that was just read by the comrade. Thank you.
Revolutionary greetings. It's Gordon Maseko, the Treasurer General of Salipsu. As Salipsu, we are aligning ourselves with the statement, and we are very clear, we are resolute that we are supporting this statement without fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Mutimwa, the General Secretary of TASU. The statement read by Comrade Vusi, it is our statement, and we rise to confirm the contents thereof. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Atuel Nazo. I'm the President of Food and Allied Workers Union, and we stand by our own statement, which has been read by Comrade Vusi. Thank you very much.
My name is Jane Nguni from Academic Professional Staff Association, NEC. We are represented in the statement, and we are fully behind Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi. Viva.
My name is Elias Opapuda, the acting president of VIEW. Ours here as the union is to be represented in the statement that which we are also part of, and we are saying that at no stage that we will allow some elements of individuals to try and destabilize the federation. Thank you very much.
Greetings. My name is Tolani Sisilane, the General Secretary of TON. We align ourselves with the statement that has been read by Comrade Vusi, and we claim full ownership of such a statement. And we are making it clear that we are behind ZV after what has transpired, and we say we will defend Saftu by any means.
Yeah, thank you. Greetings to all. My name is Solima Lema, the General Secretary of NUPSO. We align with the statement, and we are very much clear that we are not going to compromise the constitution of Saftu. So the statement represents NUPSO. Thank you.
Amanda. My name is Mishak Nchauba. I'm the national organizer of the Mausa. We are fully behind the statement and each and every word that is contained in there. Thank you very much.
Thank
Amanda.
you. Away.
Amanda.
Away.
My name is Mwekete Wakalipiana from ICTU, Information Communication Technology Union. we are fully behind the statement that is just read, and it is representing our views, our knowledge of the Constitution, and is covering all that members of ICTU want to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. I don't know whether I'm missing other comrades from the floor that are not represented in the table. If not, then comrades, like I said myself, my name is Mayom Gomezul. I'm the General Secretary of Food and Allied Workers Union. I'll be chairing the session of questions that will emanate from the media and from the floor. And the comrades that are here and other comrades, leaders that are sitting on the floor will be given an opportunity to answer to those questions. And media is now allowed and welcome to come with questions. I don't want to say your questions should be limited to the press statement, but I know media, even if I say that, they will still go to the extreme of asking questions that have nothing to do with the press conference. But we are here to respond to any question that you might want to hear, so that as when you go out there, you don't misrepresent facts of what really is happening within Saftu. Saftu is united. Saftu respects its own constitution, and these comrades that are here are defending those particular principles of unity of workers and the constitution of Saftu. I now gonna ask the media houses, when you ask your question, introduce yourself and which media house are you coming from. Therefore, so that we can note those questions. The leaders here must note questions so that as when those questions are done, we'll take 5 now. Comrade Vosintanga, the General Secretary of DITAU. President of Vavi is here. I've seen welcome the General Secretary of Group, so I've seen you there. You're welcome. And other comrades that we met this morning. Let's see how best we answer the questions, comrades. I'll give it to you. I can see there's a hand here. I'm going to note 5 hands, then we answer questions. And if there are other hands, then we'll come back to address. 1, you must remember your number. 1, 2. That's 1, 2 for now. Can we continue?
Before that, Chair, can we establish if are there journalists joining the briefing via Zoom, so that they are catered for as well and their questions are brought forward?
Okay.
And those who are managing that, please liaise with us so that they are answered as well.
Okay.
And by the way, maybe let's also welcome and appreciate their presence as well, those journalists and other leaders of some affiliates who are outside the Gauteng are also joining the briefing via Zoom.
Okay, appreciated. We'll take those questions. We'll read those questions as they come. And as well as in the Facebook, there are members that are also watching live. Comrade Vosintanga, so thanks for that. Your hand was up. Yes.
I'm Dila from ENCA. While the General Secretary seems to suggest that this is all political, in speaking to ENCA today, the President did mention that there's no politics involved. In fact, they are within their rights as the NOB to discipline any member of Saftu, including one of the office bearers themselves. And they say that this is purely about the 65,000 rand that the General Secretary is accused of spending via the credit card of Saftu. What in your opinion as affiliates is really going on in terms of this precautionary suspension? And also, you mentioned that next week at the NEC meeting, you'll decisively deal with the office bearers. What does that entail? What do you mean by that?
Thanks. I know the leaders have noted the question. You are next.
Sure. Mawande from Sunday Times. In view of the politics, we know that there's an upcoming congress for Saftu and NUMSA. How does this current situation play into those 2 particular events? In particular, now that we can see that the 2 main characters that are loggerheads here is the GS for Saftu, Mr. Vavi, and GS for NUMSA, Mr. Jim, whom we understand, of course, is an internal brewing within NUMSA to get him out. So how do you read this situation in terms of those dynamics and these two crucial political events, also knowing that NUMSA is the blesser of Saftu in terms of just holistically, I want an explanation in terms of these dynamics. We cannot run away from that NUMSA financially carries Saftu and the entire arrangement. So just a holistic overview of these particular events that are prepared.
No, thanks for the question, except the latter part, because it might not be, it's disputed in actual fact. It cannot be a correct fact that we are raising. These affiliates here pay subscriptions in Saftu.
Where is NUMSA, by the way?
Saftu is a self.
Why aren't NUMSA part of the affiliate?
Ask questions.
But you are being disruptive.
Ask question will be answered.
Apologies.
You want it to be noted as a question?
Yes.
Yeah, then raise a hand. I'll do that. Yes. But I'm saying the latter part, this union are members in good standing. They are paying subscriptions. Saftu is self-sufficient. Where even if you sit at NUMSA offices, it pays rent as any other tenant. It's not there by being NUMSA being a blesser. Comrade Mutingwa, you've written the first question.
Yeah.
Can you address it, please? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Okay. Look, firstly, as the statement indicated, we stand by what the statement says, that the national office bearers do not have the constitutional authority in terms of Saftu constitution to suspend Mr. Vavi, who is the General Secretary of the Union. Whatever the President Met Chabalala may have said, has he indicated any authority in any prescripts of Saftu? And having listened to him, he hasn't. And for that reason, we reject his explanation insofar as that particular aspect it is concerned. He does not have that authority. Number two, you see, we hear it from you, when you heard it from him, that there is 65,000 that has been spent on the credit card of Saftu. We as affiliates, from the 14th, upon receipt of this letter through the media of suspension, we have called upon the office bearers to clarify the basis upon which allegations are made, because we constitute Saftu decision-making structures. We do not know that. We are not presented with such facts. But you as the media, facts get presented to you. That it is what we are questioning in terms of the operation of Saftu and decision-making structures. On the issue of the politics, as Saftu, we do not interfere constitutionally and policy-wise. We do not interfere into what is happening in NUMSA. We read about it in the media just like you. But until such time that the collective leadership of NUMSA present the NEC with the happenings there, we are restricted to some extent to get involved into those internal politics of NUMSA. NUMSA, it is an affiliate of Saftu, equally to all of us. They are an affiliate in good standing, so they will be treated the same like all the affiliates in terms of respecting their own internal processes. But upon receipt of this information, Saftu will express itself on that in terms of its own authority around the issue of corruption and whatever alleged in the media. On the issue of politics insofar as Saftu it is concerned, look, this is a crazy season, as we have indicated, because we are going to a conference in the next 2-3 months. But we don't have concrete information that suggests that Mr. Vavi, it is targeted for that particular reason, because we have not discussed as affiliates. But where we stand is that until such time that Mr. Vavi is removed by the legitimate conference of Saftu, he remains the General Secretary of Saftu, and he will be respected as such and defended as we hereby do. On the issue of NUMSA being a blesser, I think the chairperson have clarified that. We are firm in so far as those affiliates that are not paying subscriptions. In fact, we are on records having terminated membership of those affiliates who do not pay subscriptions to Saftu, so that we are all equal under the constitution of Saftu. Therefore, there's no big brother here called, NUMSA or smaller brother and so on. We are all equal under the constitution of Saftu. By the way, some of these particular issues that we are dealing with here today, some members of NUMSA, I mean, on their individual capacity, they have expressed themselves in social media, and it is for every single worker to come out in defense of their own general secretary. In the conference, if people want to sponsor a motion of a different general secretary, they are welcome to do so, but that will be subjected to the internal democratic processes of NUMSA, of Saftu. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Any addition from Oh, President, you come after.
Yeah, just to add, you see, one on politics, the trade unions in South Africa are not gumboots trade unions, are politically conscious. Politics can manifest in a number of ways, but as we speak now, there's no such halabaloo in Saftu, But maybe as time goes on, we'll now really detect that and deal with it decisively. If individuals will bring their own shenanigans that are not part of this federation. Coming actually to issues of finances, if you peruse the constitution of Saftu, we have a FinCom that is independent from the national office bearers. That runs actually the finances, which is constituted by number of affiliates treasurers led by the Saftu treasurer. And in this case, we haven't had any meeting of that particular nature. And whenever such things arises anywhere, it is that substructure of the federation that have to deal with that and bring that information to the NEC. As this union, that's why we are saying this president is totally out of order. Because one, as affiliates, we have never had any correspondence from them. We only heard this thing through yourself as media. How then do you communicate such as the leader of the federation? Up to this point, as we meet today, there's no letter communicated informing actually these affiliates who are paying subscriptions to the federation. That is why we were saying, no, that is not on. We cannot accept the way in which our federation is run. But I think on the issue of NUMSA, as we all know that this federation, in terms of its own coach, all the subscriptions are paid in terms of the proportional base. Tomorrow, it can be this union that will have 300 members, and they will pay as such. A blessed thing, I think, is the thing of the capitalist. We cannot term NOMSA as a blesser. It's a trade union confined within the constitution of this federation. That is how we can put it. On their politics, it's their politics. They will deal with it at their own time. When they want to report it to the federation, then we'll assist our sister unions to overcome whatever problems they are confronted with. Thank you.
No, Vavi, you are asking a question about the meaning of what is it that we mean when we say we will decisively deal with. We have made a conclusion that the behavior of the president and the other national office bearers in relation to the letter of the 14th to the General Secretary does constitute misconduct, politically and organizationally. What brings us together under Saftu is the Constitution. So anyone amongst us who seeks to trample on our Constitution in the manner in which the President has done, the only thing that can be done to that person is for that person to face the consequences for his or her action. So the Constitution is very clear. How do we deal with leaders who would have conducted themselves in the manner contrary to the Constitution of the Federation? So we'll decisively pursue them at the Constitutional Meeting of the Federation, which is the National Executive Committee meeting taking place next week. They must be held accountable for their action. It can be. So that includes quite a number of things. Amongst others, the Constitution that we refer to talks of a suspension. That's what the Constitution says. It talks of a possible removal from the office. And any other form of discipline that we might find appropriate to met against that individual or those individuals. So what we're saying is that we will not leave this thing lying because we do not take it lightly. We're going to act. We're going to act. We will act. That's what we're saying. And acting means decisively. Mawande, you are making a reference to the National Congress of Saftu. I think it makes sense that you do that, because one of the fundamental tasks of the Congress is to elect leadership. And the reality is that Zwelinzima Vavi is amongst the leaders, and he is possible for election. So if less than 90 days before the Congress, you find the president and some of the national office bearers behaving in the manner they did, it is very, very difficult to dissociate that action from the Congress. We have actually came to a conclusion that we think that we actually hold very high suspicions that the act of the national office bearers led by the president is only driven by conspiracy theories to minimize competition at the National Congress and make Comrade Zwelinzima Vavi not eligible for election. and reduced the choice for workers on who to elect. Otherwise, how do you explain this? That the president, whom we regard as the custodian of the Constitution of the Federation, and if you look at this Constitution, it's signed by him. He is the custodian of our Constitution, and act in the manner that it's so unconstitutional. You can only make one conclusion, that this thing is politically motivated and it is connected with the Congress and it is about predetermining the Congress outcome. That's what we're saying and that's what we mean. We're watching the space, we're guarding the Federation, we will guard it regardless. I think this question that you seem to be raising jokingly about some affiliates being blessers is dangerous. It's important that it be answered extensively because it divides us. It could create a very dangerous narrative that one affiliate, and you have said NUMSA is a blesser. I don't know where do you get that. We don't know that because it is not true. It is actually false. We must say this because if we don't say it, it could create a very dangerous narrative for the Federation. NUMSA is an important affiliate of Saftu, and it played a critical role in the formation of Saftu. And we have always recognized that, and we shall forever recognize that. But NUMSA enjoys the constitutional right that all of us enjoys in the Federation. And the president, yes, and has actually simplified this thing, that the policy of the Federation in relation to the payment of subscription is very simple. You pay for each and every member. You don't pay over and above that. So to say that NUMSA is a blesser, you could be implying that the Federation is charging NUMSA over and above what they are entitled to pay, and that's false. So it's important that it must be clarified. We are equal, affiliates are equal, are contributing equally proportional to their membership. We pay per member, and so NUMSA does. So that thing must be dispelled, must be demystified. It must die in your mind, Mawanda, because it's wrong. Well, lastly, politics. Saftu is a political animal. It's a product of political discussions. It's a contested organization politically and otherwise. So you can't rule out any political or in any political interference and intervention on any move that happens in the Federation. So this erroneous act by the president and his team could be politically motivated for many reasons. And part of the reasons could be to predetermine the Congress, as I have said, Congress outcome. It could be to change the character of Saftu politically. And there are ongoing discussions internally in Saftu, very heated ones about Saftu and its relationship with the SRWP, whether or not to embrace the SRWP as a federation. There are those discussions taking place inside the federation as we speak. And they are very robust. We are considering convening of the working class movement and their internal persuasion that we should endorse SRWP, and there are discussions. So it could be political because there are political discussions taking place in Saftu every day. But if there are people who want to change this federation from what it was established for, into something else, we shall match them toe for toe. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Vusi. Thank you, other comrades, for responding to the questions. I don't know whether there are follow-up questions from the floor. Yes, from the floor. Yeah, okay. Before the floor, can I have what question here? You'll come on, and can I go to yourself, leader, to take questions? Before you. Can we have are you raising a question?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Can you introduce yourself here?
My name is Sylvia Peget. I'm from Sowetan. You know, Saftu member, less than 5 years, you are almost about to finish it. 5 years now as a federation. And you know, pardon yourself as an alternative to COSAD in excess of 20 affiliates. And you were convinced that by this period you would have surpassed the membership that COSAD has connected to this. But now, seeing around 13 affiliates, when Saftu is saying it's an internal process between their employees and employer arrangement, whether constitutional or not, but for 13 affiliates to jump and have consulted widely to have a press conference spells that there is an internal fraction within Saftu. On the basis of the world, would you admit that you actually do have a problem that actually seeks to destroy Saftu, as would have known it, or as well predicted that it would be a fully fledged, viable competitor with COSAD in terms of its size and its strength? And my second question, I mean, you may not admit or you may dispute that NUMSA is a bless, as my colleague put it. But because of its size, well, we wouldn't run away from the fact that the president of Saftu comes from NUMSA. We wouldn't run away from the fact that there are internal politics within Saftu, even in relation to how to relate to the political party that would have been created by which one of you actually alluded to. Do you feel pressured by NUMSA, given its size within the federation, in terms of which direction that must be taken? But lastly, do you support Mr. Zenzibanga? I mean, there would have been discussion even within Saftu about how he would have overstayed his welcome, how he's he claimed that he's a bully, it's not democratic. Some would say it's time for Mr. Ivan Jim to take over. But I'm saying, as affiliates who would have, within days after he would have been sent a letter, came out and said this is political, it has nothing to do with internal due processes of SAFTU. Do you support him to secure another term as the General Secretary of SAFTU?
Thank you, Comrade from Sowetan. I know the leaders have noted those questions. While they are preparing, can I go to you so that we don't find ourselves as if we are neglecting them?
Yeah, there's a question from Kulekani Mapubani from 2024. He says, please share if there's a clear Saftu constitutional code that Zwelinzima Vavi is said to have violated according to Mek Shavala. Okay, so the question is from Kulekani Mapubani from 2024. He wants to know whether there's a clear Saftu constitutional code that Zwelinzima Vavi is said to have violated according to Mek Shavala.
Yeah, there's the next one? No, that's the only one. Are you writing questions?
Yes, we are.
Then you'll be the last so that we answer the questions that have been raised. Yeah.
Thanks, leader.
Yes.
In fact, I just want to add and contextualize what Sylvia was saying. His first two questions. I will add it with what Ivan Jim said in the WhatsApp group as to how I found out. It's neither here nor there. But he said in the WhatsApp group. In fact, he fell short of threatening Saftu that NUMSA will leave if you continue in the stance that you have taken today. In fact, he says it, not in so many words, with his English. So, do you believe that if NUMSA through Mr. Ivan Jean, if he continues with what he's saying on the WhatsApp group, they say, okay guys, in fact he says, keep your Vavi, we'll keep our Saftu. Or let's say you keep Saftu, then you defeat him. He lives with NUMSA. They say, by Saftu, we start a new trade union federation or whatever, or they go it alone, they just dance as NUMSA. Would, adding to what Sibi was saying, that be the beginning of the end for Saftu in terms of what it had envisaged to be by now, if NUMSA through IMG pushes through with the middle finger, if I were to say it like that. And also, just how do you view the comments by Mr. General, that entire statement that he made there, and the manner in which he made it?
Which statement is that?
No, it's talking about the WhatsApp. Yeah, it's fine. It's
so I'm saying, it's kind of, you know, yeah, so of course, I know where you're going with that.
No, want to respond from an informed basis. I'm asking you an important question.
Can I read it?
Which statement are you referring to, so that we don't misrepresent your question and misrepresent the Federation and everybody else?
Okay, leader, no, it's fine. That's a fair point.
But while we are looking for that statement, let me try to address why Saftu was formed and the purpose and the intention. You should remember, if you were there by that time, when COSATU was the only federation that represented the majority of the workers in the country, in particular we as blacks. There was a contestation of the infiltration of politics, in particular the ANC politics, that were preoccupying the space at the expense of worker issues. There were unions that were vocal, including NUMSA, FAO, and others that were there by then to say a federation is formed to lead the program and the agenda that seeks to suggest or propose or encourage or promote the working class agenda within COSATU itself. But you remember, you know very well, COSATU was more like captured. You know, we captured in terms of a political ideology of the ANC, being SACP, SFN guard, taught how to respect, how to vote to ANC. And some of the unions, we rejected that particular approach. We said, we can't. Can we change the character of COSATU to be a character of a federation that talks workers' issues, that rejects the policies that seeks to be undermining and being anti-workers? That's what led to NUMSA being kicked out, unions like FAO leaving COSATU, with the intention not necessarily to compete with COSATU. We're not competing with COSATU. We wanted to take and build a federation that will be independent, strong, militant, and radical, and make sure that it's a socialist orientated, not in words, but with practice, where workers can come and join without them being subjected to address. Before you address workers, in actual fact, during COSATU, you must say Viva ANC, Viva. And when you get to KZN, membership of our unions, not all of them were members of the ANC. Then it was fragmenting how workers react to the unions. That's why today you'll still find that the majority of workers are still not members of the union, because unions have been seen as a political propaganda to take workers as voting cows in favor of certain unions. That's why we said, no, we are going to be independent from any political party. And as we are independent, we invite everyone who believes that the agenda of the workers should preoccupy what is being discussed in the Congress. I remember in one of the Congresses, that was in COSATU, that Congress ended while we were discussing who must succeed Zuma. The whole Congress, they never discussed the organizational report, it discussed the political report until the Congress ends when Ramaphosa was endorsed. We could not stomach that as workers. We said, no, we are leaving COSATU. That's the reason. We're not contesting with COSATU in any event, but we wanted an independent, where the weight of the workers will be heard, from a farm worker, from a kitchen worker, without that worker to be subjected and made a voting cows. That's what we did. And of course, with that decision and conviction, you must expect enemies. Because we are now contesting the terrain that has to do with taking the membership away from political parties, by just a virtue of not you promoting those particular parties, by taking members away from COSATU, they will not have rested. Remember when NUMSA left, they created Limusa, it died. When FAU left, they created AFADU, it's dying. When many left, they created other alternatives because they wanted to occupy those sectors. But those sectors were not occupied to assist and liberate those workers. But the purpose was to make sure that it's a gatekeeping, because that's what COSATU has been, a gatekeeping for ANC. And we said we cannot allow that thing. That's why we started this federation. Hence you see these 13 unions here, to defend that principle, to say we can't allow the politics of whoever sitting somewhere. Maybe when we started this thing, we abantu abanama alternatives wabo. But when we started this thing, whoever that came with his own alternative to bring his own politics and think that will capture again Saftu to push his or her political narrative, is not going to win the war. And some of them have their own challenges wherever they are. For example, if you are going to ask me if NUMSA tomorrow they can say they leave because they go with the ideology of Comrade Jim. If they go with that ideology as NUMSA, you could have seen SWP as sitting in parliament as we speak. Where was NUMSA members when SWP was formed and it contested elections? There was not even a single seat. That explains to you what the character of NUMSA is not the same as what you are telling us. There's NUMSA, there's Jim.
Yeah.
You cannot combine the two. Hence I'm asking, if there's NUMSA united with Jim ideology, where we could have been since SWP being parliament, maybe him being a president. That answer your question. Comrades will add on the others.
Can I just read this message?
No. Yes.
So this is Mr. Jim. He says, I'll try to edit it as I go along because it doesn't.
He says where?
No, I'll come to that.
Okay.
Yes. This is what the liberalism that has engulfed Saftu. But we can tell the whole NOBs to look for the nearest chief and jump because he is popular than the rest of Saftu NOBs, who are non-entities and can be told by Lola and Jangas that they are devouring their own when they call for a comrade to account. We were all expelled in the ANC. Okay, I'll jump this part. An individual like Zwelinzima Vavi has absolutely no respect of the collective leadership. He can simply dismiss leadership of the federation with absolute arrogance and absolute disrespect of the entire leadership that respected him and allowed him to explain his side of the story. Ours is an appreciation that we are in a democratic dispensation with a bourgeoisie constitution and a Bill of Rights. Okay, again, then yeah, it begins not to make sense. So, and then he says, such affiliates, okay.
Still, it doesn't make sense.
We must be clear to all of you in this group. Keep your special eminence within Zimbabwe and hands off our Saftu NOPs. If you think that leadership of Saftu is an individual, you are not with us. You can keep him above. That is, as your only leader of Saftu. We know no democracy and a worker control union. Vavi goes all out arrogant and tells Saftu jump off the cliff, blah blah blah. Titao, Fao, Salipsu, and some other affiliates don't mince their words. They call Zwelinzima on Zwelinzima. Yeah, it goes on and on. You've seen it, but you get the gist of what he's saying. Oh, and by the way, you respond. We are not under your hostage right now. We suffered enough of a self-important tendency. Your many gods desire status as a rejected. Stop this name calling and engage on facts and substance. We are not under a hostage. I have been exclamation. So that is the context I wanted to bring.
Okay, cheers.
Okay, just for interest's sake, whomever gave you that particular message, you must check the time in which that message was written and extrapolate from that. If you yourself says some of the things do not make sense, I mean, they did not as well make sense to us. And that is why we are not interested in that. The second part is Saftu. It is run through its organs, constitutional structures. When Ivan Jim speaks on a WhatsApp, who is he addressing? And do we have to take that serious? I don't think so. Because in all of us united as 14 affiliates, we call on the NEC scheduled for the 24th to the 26th to engage in these issues. And Ivan Jim, he is the legitimate leader of NUMSA, and he has a platform in the NEC to address us, and then we will answer him there. If we are going to be engaging on WhatsApp issues, we may be faced a challenge of as well as being unconstitutional, while we are challenging the constitutionality of the behavior of the NOB of Saftu. Now, coming to the reaction that you referred to, Sowetan. Look, I think earlier on, comrades indicated that Saftu is a political animal. And it is a contested terrain. And we await the conference to and the NEC of Saftu to deal with some of these issues that may appear as ruction. There's no ruction. The NEC of Saftu is meeting regularly as per the constitution, except the recent behavior where the NEC was postponed twice. The one of the 24th, it is the third one convened, which then lend credence to the political maneuvers. Remember, it is the NOB that convenes the NEC. Now, if it gets postponed twice for reasons unexplained, clearly there could be something that we did not know. But now that there is this pending suspension of Mr. Vavi, that explains itself. That why were those particular meetings postponed for reasons unexplained. So, the president of Saftu, he's from NUMSA indeed, and he was elected by all of us. But when we elect leadership, we elect leadership on the basis of the constitution of Saftu. If any one of the elected leaders move away from that fundamental constitutional principle, the NEC will have to deal with that particular behavior, because of it becomes problematic for somebody who is elected to defend and uphold the constitution of Saftu at otherwise in the manner that our president, did and so on. Vavi being a bully, I don't know who is he bullying, because if I'm here, I can't be bullied by somebody that I elect. Vavi, he is a workaholic. Some among us are threatened by the fact of his effectiveness in his administrative leadership. And that is why there are some of these particular challenges that people are coming up with. When Vavi is given a deadline by the National Executive Committee of Saftu, he delivers on that. Whether there is a constitutional provision that he may have violated, we are as stunned as you that we are here wanting to be told by the President which provision is that we as owners of Saftu as affiliates, we do not know. The President is not entitled to the monopoly of information or whatever that he may want to do with that the information that he acquired belongs to us. And if it is not shared with us, now it is his own information that we do not know of. But we will await the NEC for him to address us on some of those particular issues, if any. The question of whether we're going to be supporting Vavi in the Congress or whatever, it is neither here nor there. That process has not started with us. Vavi, in terms of Saftu constitution, he is eligible for re-election if he so chooses. Like all of us seated here, we could, raise our hands to say we want to stand. Therefore, for us to express our preference for Vavi for the future, it will be out of order. It will be unconstitutional for us because of that process has not started. But if Vavi is still available, some ordinary workers of our affiliates, they are saying, who amongst you who will be better than Vavi? They're asking that question. Now, when they ask that question, we have to express ourselves at that particular time, not now. On the issue of Ivan Jim threatening us, firstly, we must start from the premise that Ivan Jim did not threaten us in the constitutional structure of the union. Therefore, it will be incorrect for us to respond to him through the media. But if he does that in the meeting, we will deal with him according to the constitution of Saftu. But we cannot have a catfight with Ivan Jim in the Facebook and other media forums and so on. And our preoccupation is not Ivan Jim, it is NUMSA. NUMSA made out of 380,000 workers. Not Ivan Jim as an individual. We are not being personal here. The fact that Comrade Vose answered him, he was just putting him in his place on the platform where he raised those issues. But they are not part of what we are about at this particular level. The issue of him having overstayed his welcome, Vavi, I think I answered it on my preceding answer and so on. The question of us keeping our Vavi and stay away from their Saftu. This Saftu, it is ours. We are here to defend Saftu. And it belongs to us because of no one individual or no one affiliate has formed this particular Saftu. We all contributed, though in varying degrees, but we all contributed to what we have today. And all of us are as important as any other person based on numerical strength or otherwise, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you, Chair. Just a brief addition to what Comrade Steve would have said, because in actual fact he covered most of the areas. But maybe we must apologize to Siviwe for starting before you arrive, because it is clear that you missed a lot. The reason I say this is because some of the questions you are asking are clearly explained on our statement. We will share the statement, by the way, So I think, I hope when you read it, it's going to help you to further formulate your thinking on the issues at hand. You are asking us a question as to whether do we feel pressured by NUMSA as being a big affiliate and driving towards a particular direction, and some of us are of the view that that direction is. But first, let's say that we wouldn't want this media briefing to degenerate into a NUMSA, Vavi and Ivan kind of a briefing. This is a media briefing to clarify our position on the action of the national office bearers, which is ultra viral in terms of the constitution of the federation. Anything and everything over and above that to us is a by the way. But because you are media people, your job is to fish and you can fish. So we are not pressured. Let's say that. We are not pressured in the context of our earlier answer that there are no stepsons and stepdaughters in Saftu. All affiliates of Saftu are affiliates of Saftu. They carry the same status and our rights are equal as affiliates. In the NEC, when we speak, all of us, what we said, get minuted as having been said by an affiliate. That's how equal we are. So we are not pressured, but we do recognize it will be foolish of us not to do. We do recognize the fact that NUMSA is one of our biggest affiliates and the biggest union in the country, possibly in the region. And for that we are grateful that in the midst we have such a key role player. So if I may jump in to Mawanda's question about NUMSA living, because it connects to what I'm saying now. Well, personally, I don't see that possibility, Awanda. I don't see that possibility, Mawanda. I don't see a possibility of NUMSA living Saftu. NUMSA championed the birth of Saftu. They championed the birth of Saftu. So I can't understand how would they arrive to a different position, and what would have changed in a period of less than 5 years. So that's why I wouldn't want to entertain your question from a substantive point of view in detail, because you are creating a narrative that in my imagination is not possible. I wonder if the rank and file of members of NUMSA and the leadership of NUMSA would agitate for that. I honestly do not see that happening. I think the argument that you are privy to have been shared, it's an argument that could be characterized in the context of what Steve said, but it's not an argument that it could be said we have sleepless nights about possibilities of NUMSA living. NUMSA is a revolutionary union. They understand the politics of the country, so they can't take that extreme position. But well, they can speak for themselves. Kulegani is asking about the constitutional violation, the constitutional clause that Comrade Vavi would have violated. We must say that as a prefix to the answer, that as we sit here, being National Executive Committee members, we have not been taken into confidence by either the President or his colleagues as to what exactly that Comrade Vavi has done. constitutionally, administratively, financially, and otherwise. We have not been briefed as we speak. Not telephonically, not via WhatsApp, Mawanda, not through a letter from the president, not through any structure. That is why in our statement, we are veering away from entering into the substance of the issues because we don't know what the issues are. Ours is about the upkeep of the Constitution of the Federation, which is that the president does not have the authority that he claims to have over the General Secretary. So we will not be able to give clarity to that question as to what constitutional clause would have been violated. Maybe if it was directed to Mac, he may answer it, and we don't know on whose behalf is he doing all this, because surely he is not doing it on our behalf as the NEC. That we have clarified on our statement. Well, I think Comrade Stephen has eloquently answered the question on whether or not do we support Comrade Zwelinzima Vavi to take another term. We are not there yet. We will cross the river when we get to that bridge. But go to ordinary workers and speak about Zwelinzima Vavi, and you will see the reaction. Not us here, ordinary rank and file members. Because he carries their aspirations and hopes. He still remains one of the upright, honest trade unionists. But that is subject matter for the Congress, whether he gets another term or not. But it will be good if he were to get another term. It will be good for the Federation. It will be good for the Federation if he were to get another term, but that's a call for unions to make through their own structures building up to the Congress. Silviwe is in the statement. We are admitting, my brother, that we do have challenges in the statement that we have presented. So you can't be asking us as to whether can we admit that we have got internal problems. We are admitting that Saftu is going through an unfortunate phase. It's a phase that we hope it shall pass, and it's a phase that we hope the leadership of Saftu shall rise and correct. But if you see a president waking up, writing a letter to the GS and say that, tell me why I should not suspend you until 4 o'clock on the 17th. And I sit here and say, and I say to you, no, Saftu does not have problems. I will be in denial. I will be a denialist. We do have problems because that act on its own tells you that we are confronted with challenges. But it is challenges that we are dealing with. We don't think that they are insurmountable. We think we will overcome them. We will do all our best till the last drop of our blood to keep Saftu intact. And we are convinced that we shall succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Comrade. There was an allegation raised, colleagues, of an amount squandered by the GS. And apparently that amount, as I've heard, it was 65,000. Now, as a federation, colleagues, it is not within the right of a president, neither any office bearer, to dwell when it comes to that. Because Saftu has got a financial committee. This financial committee is constituted by members of affiliates. In terms of the constitution, the national treasurer of Saftu becomes the chair of the FinCom. Now, the procedure is such that in an event of that nature, it is through the TG that a financial irregularity will be spotted, and it is not going to be taken to WhatsApp groups and other social media platforms. The FinCom sits prior the NEC in most cases, such that the financial committee during the NEC, through its chair, which is a treasurer, will come and report all the financial transactions of the federation, including the mismanagement, in an event there will be such. And once such has been reported, it is the collective of the National Executive Committee which will then deliberate in terms of the constitution as to what then measures should be taken. So for us to come here and say we want to deliberate about that allegation which was raised by, as alleged by the president, who is not even the chair of the FinCom, it becomes problematic. In effect, it creates a mockery out of ourselves if we can probe. So we cannot have such a thing. That must be reported. And us sitting here as affiliates, we've never even had a single affiliate denying the allegation. I think that it will be incorrect of us to do so. However, that must be done through the correct channels, and the correct channel, the correct structure is the financial committee, which accounts to the NEC. But lastly, you see, this narrative that there's a problem, there are contradictions within NUMSA, as you put it, and those contradictions, through their manifestation, they begin to affect the federation. It's a speculation that which you are trying to analyze. However, even if there may be contradiction within NUMS, the federation and through the affiliates has no right to interfere with those until such time that NUMSA has brought to the attention of this federation those contradictions. It is then that Saftu can begin to have deliberations about that. Now, as to whether there is a loggerheads between the two GS, look, we can't come here as affiliates and begin to conduct nominations of a Congress and say that we are saying ZV for the second term. It will be incorrect, because we don't constitute a Congress. That process is a Congress process which is democratic in nature and which must be given its space. In any political setup, a normal lobbying will occur. But the point that I want to make, in particular on the statement you were reading from WhatsApp, as the affiliates, as soon as we realize that there is a crisis, we've issued statements, we've written letters to the NOPs without any, it's an open secret, we did not hide that. But I was going to ask a question, if Have you ever seen an official statement from NUMS other than the WhatsApp? And that is a crisis. So for one to speculate NUMSA leaving the federation or the federation keeping this one so that the other one will do that, I'm afraid that may not be the official position of NUMS. However, I cannot speak on their behalf, but the point I'm making is that all of us here, we've never seen an official statement from NUMS. And I think that's where we should leave it.
No, thank you, leader. Leaders, I think we are done. I don't know whether there are other questions, but I think we have just exhausted issues. The only reason I'm going to give it to you because I saw you arriving late. That's what qualifies you to ask a question. Nothing else. If we arrive early,
following the thanks comment.
then by following you saw it nice, then you came running. That's good. That's good. Okay, I think not more than 2 questions will be granted so that we
very briefly.
introduce yourself first.
Yeah,
Then, yes.
Rehab Desai, Uhuru Productions. I have had the opportunity to have the ear and hear what's been going on inside the NEC over the last couple of years. And this fight that's been waged by sections led by Irving Jim inside the NEC has clearly been intensifying. We know, we can say that the Yama Bungani article by Michael Reddy is speculation. But I have spoken to those office bearers. We know Comrade Bruce has her own private security detail. We know that Ivan Jin is being taken to court over NUMSA's own constitution. We know NUMSA has expelled 70 of its own shop stewards. We know that a number of the regions inside NUMSA are in deep contestation around the forthcoming Congress. Now, given this, it is no surprise that those tensions begin to spill over in a very real manner inside the Saftu NEC. This happens everywhere. South Africa is not unique in this regard. And we, in order to safeguard the unity of the Federation, I would put it to you, comrades, that you have to begin to speak openly and politically about this question, and we have to understand your members, because we can talk about
summarize.
Yeah.
Please summarize.
We can talk about no self-respecting trade union member are going on about Vavi or Urban Jim or so on. But we know from that same article there is a problem with worker control in our trade union, political malaise. So the question is this a principled matter for you that you are bringing towards us today, that as the affiliates that are sitting at this table, this is a no line that you are crossing. You are not crossing this line. That you are insisting that these power to determine these matters rests with you as an NEC and you alone, or is this a strategical move on your PR? Is it a position of principle or strategy?
Okay.
Thanks, Carl.
No. Your question is going to be answered. Like I said, you arrived late. It might be unfortunate that we'll be repeating ourselves. But even if it's answered, what happened in NUMSA will not be part of the answer. With due respect, this is a Saftu affiliates with their, I'm from FAO, from Titawe, and other affiliates with their own issues that has to be addressed. NUMSA issues, NUMSA is not here. NUMSA is capable enough, their leadership, Comrade Jim is capable enough as the General Secretary to speak to the issues of NUMSA as the General Secretary. Meaning he's in a better position to answer to the questions that you've related to NUMSA as to what is happening there. We are not aware of that as the Federation. Like Comrade have said, until they are brought into our attention, people are not aware. The internal issues of FAO are not known by anyone, are known by members of FAO. That's how affiliates operate. Affiliates operate autonomously. NUMSA is also autonomous in terms of their own issues. You cannot interfere on issues of NUMSA. But I'm saying you can rest assured that whatever is happening in any affiliate, including NUMSA, is why we are here to say, as Saftu, we are going to defend our unity as Saftu. We might have with about NUMSA, there might be other worse things with other affiliates that maybe you're not privy or Ramabungani has not exposed it. There might be worse, but I'm saying NUMSA is capable enough through the General Secretary of which you can speak to, Comrade Jim. But Comrade Jim, when it comes to Saftu, is our comrade, is part of the NEC. We engage. And as well as the issue that there have been division, there have been fighting. You know, in any structure that is political in nature, there are contestation of views. But at the end of the day, when a decision has been made, that what we call centralism, yes, everyone has now agreed to democratic centralism. But we engage there, we punch, not punch as a punch, but we engage in such a way that at the end of the day, the product of that engagement is going to be sharpened, become a best product that one will not even try to attack. Meaning that you might construe or interpret that thing as a fight. It's not a fight in where the arena of politics are involved. It's an engagement and what we call robustness that you might see and interpret from a distance. This is a fight. It's not a fight. And the NEC have been doing that for years. It was our first 5 years. You can just understand coming from different, angles and having to build a new home. Like you are marrying a new wife that you have never met. In fact, you have never be a girlfriend. You wake up tomorrow is your wife. You can see that how you're going to work towards the first fight. The only issue is that how do you now overcome that particular thing and at least build a better marriage after 5 years. That's why we are going to the Congress now to claim our better marriage. I think comrades can respond in shortly 1 minute so that at least we cover you.
Well, we can confirm. We can confirm that our presence here today, it's a significant action to confirm that we now have reached a point that things can no longer go beyond this line. And the message is clear to the leadership, led by Comrade Mac, that not anymore. Not anymore. No more. Can't go beyond here. Thank you.
Okay, we are all done. Thank you to comrades that have been here, availed themselves. I know you have a busy schedule. Media houses, I know there are better issues that you can report on popularizing the current leadership of the ANC. Therefore, the time that you've given to honor this particular invite is appreciated. And we hope that on the 24th, as you go to your own NEC, you'll be put abreast in terms of the development, because that's the only structure that can decide as to what happened with the future of any other NOP. Then you will be briefed in terms of the progresses there in B2 next week. Thank you very much.
But don't put us under pressure. Ne? Don't put us under pressure. The NEC is our NEC.
Thank you. I was going to buy it, then when I saw you right there, no, now I have no. Thanks. No, it's fine.